Richmond Lowdown.
Same two of us.
Yeah, on the second day of the Republican National Convention.
Have you ever been in a situation where you've watched one of your enemies, the guy that gave you a wedgie in school, whatever it was, and he was about to walk into a pit of mud and water and didn't see it, and you have it's a natural instinct to say, "Excuse me, Bob," before you take that next step, but no, you just stand there and you stop what you're doing because you want to enjoy the moment of this idiot falling into this pit of mud and gook and whatnot, and just actually being there for the moment to enjoy it. Thus is the Republican Party. And if the Democrats are smart, they won't say a word the whole week. They'll just let this thing happen.
Well, almost all, especially a lot of teen movies, but a whole lot of movies, comedies and other movies are built on the premise that the bully finally gets their comeuppance. I have to tell you, and you know this, I'm just a little worried that people will see through Trump and support him anyway.
And this will be the week. It's just amazing to me that the day starts before anything has happened, and Paul Manafort, his whatever the hell he is, his campaign chairman or whatever, his mentor, who was a scumbag, by the way, a lobbyist to begin with. Anyway, this guy gets on national TV and talks about Kasich, who is the governor of Ohio.
And was a presidential candidate.
What a loser he is for not showing up at the Republican convention to give some sort of a speech as to how wonderful Donald Trump is when Kasich hated his guts to begin with, and how all these senators and congressmen are all the same sellout SOBs that they are for not coming around to coronation time for the king.
Well, there are all sorts of news reports and memes out on the internet, and in which they compare something that Donald said one day to what he says an hour later or the next day or whatever. But there are also memes out there that take the Republicans, different nationally prominent Republicans, and they kind of compare what they have said in the past to Trump to what they're currently saying. And I have to say with Kasich, good show. You've got a little integrity. You're not changing your tune.
That's something you don't find in a lot of politicians, Democrat or Republican.
Well, and look at the way he trounced and what he said about Christie. And here's Christie, hoping to be the next Supreme Court nominee.
We'll get to him because he has made another faux pas.
Well, and Christie too. I've been watching his face in photo ops where he's sort of standing behind court, in the court of Trump, sort of at the back, and he doesn't look like a happy camper. Oh
no, Christie's not used to being the sidekick.
He's not. He doesn't. He wants to be the show. He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't want to be.
Okay, and then we move from that fiasco of calling out Kasich to then the opening ceremonies where the Colorado delegation wants to at least get a vote on the idea of throwing Donald out as their candidate.
Was that Swedish you were speaking?
No, that was a mouthful of marbles that I was speaking. So, and now they're all pissed off that there wasn't a vote, and this is undemocratic, and it's socialism, and
It's socialism. Well, they actually apparently some of these people had actually filed petitions, and
that's the thing that made it even worse.
Well, because by the Republican Party's own rules,
exactly,
they just basically took their own rules last night and said, out the window, not today. we're going to play by these rules. These are really important.
However, we have the right to change them arbitrarily.
At a moment's notice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what makes politics what it is today.
And that's why we don't like politicians.
Yeah.
Anybody in this country.
I mean, politicians aren't in politics to do anything for the people. They are there to shove money into their pockets. That's why they're there, and that's why they want to keep on getting reelected. K Street, it's just not by accident that K Street exists. I mean, if you ever go to Washington, you see this. There are these marble buildings that they have that cost $84 gajillion to put these things up. And the reason that the NRA can shove $250,000 each to every congressman and senator is that the gun manufacturers are shoving millions into the pockets of the NRA to shove the money into the pockets of the... It just goes on and on and on. And I don't want to get far off of the convention, though, because...
But Donald, can we talk about Mike Pence?
I'm sorry, because I really wanted to lead off the show today to thank you all for your prayers and your novenas and taking the time out of your life to pray that Donald Trump would pick Mike Pence.
You did call for that.
And it just proves that prayer can move mountains. As I always said, baby Jesus would come through for the American people.
And how did he do that?
Well, he picked him as his candidate. Now, here's the thing that I think we need to do in Indiana. We need to get a referendum, a law, something passed that now that Pence is out of the state, that he can't come back.
Let's build a wall. We could build a wall around Indiana.
Why didn't I think of that? That would be perfect.
To begin with, we could just do it on the Ohio-Indiana border because he's over in Ohio.
Well, the other thing we could do that might be just as effective as the Newt the Nut wants to give a Sharia test for Muslims, and if they don't pass the test, then we get rid of them. Yeah. I think there should be a Christianity test that we give to people. And if they have too much Christianity in them,
well,
I think maybe they should not be allowed in.
Yeah, I heard that Donald had backed off of the Muslim ban. He's now going for extreme vetting. What is extreme vetting?
If you don't pass, you get shot. Or waterboarded. Or both.
Oh.
Or shot while you're being waterboarded.
Oh.
That's extreme. Because, he wants to bring back waterboarding. I mean, that's his... He's going to order to our troops to go against the Geneva Convention. Our president is going to do that.
You remember, not personally, we're not that old, but do you remember Roosevelt's fireside chats? Can you imagine if Trump's presidency? It will be obligatory that we watch nothing but him every night because it'll be him talking.
It'll be on all channels.
All channels.
All channels all the time.
There'll be a Trump channel.
There was a book written about that. Orwell.
1984.
Yeah, I seem to remember that was part of the program as to how they program the people.
Mm-hmm. And I know I've told you the story before, but I love this story. Amazon had all these books and that they give you for free. These are classics that are the copyrights expired on, and so a lot of people had bought. You call it buying, but you're not paying for it because it's free. 1984, and then they found out that book, the copyright wasn't expired on it. So instead of saying to all the people that had downloaded the book, we are going to pay those copyright fees for you because we shouldn't have given you this book for free, or from here on in it won't be free, and we're going to pay the fees. They just went into everybody's Kindle without even telling them they were going to do so and zapped the book out.
America. America's great.
One of the few real big missteps in my way of thinking that Amazon's made.
They had a book problem down in our sister city in Scum Hollow.
They did?
Perhaps the general.
At the library?
Well, general. Well, it seems as though we had a school teacher down there at the school, at the high school. And she was saying that they were going to assign certain books for the children to read in English class.
Uh-huh.
And she came out this book, and I remember Mindy Giffen down there saying, "My God in heaven, we got to do something about this." And it was a guy by the name of Hank Menbell or something like that wrote a book that she was going to make all these kids read. And the book was called Moby Dick. And we all said, if you're going to teach the kids about venereal disease, you need to do that in the health class. We don't want that kind of smut going into the English class, only to find out that Buddy down at the filling station, he had a case of Moby Dick one time. Yeah.
Donald, I'm speechless.
Bona fide. He had that.
Bona fide Moby Dick.
He had it. And if you got that, you got a handful of something you don't want. So anyway, that was just my little thing about books and how you can go wrong with books.
Well, I think you can. You can go wrong with a lot of things. You do know that Ernie and Bert on Sesame Street are a gay couple.
One has to wonder how this country ever got in a position where we have two people whose positive ratings, well, their negative ratings are in the 60s and 70s. How we ever end up with two people like this as the choice to go into the voting booth is just beyond me. But thinking about that makes my head hurt. There was a guy in Chicago by the name of Larry Lujak.
That's a great name.
Larry Lujak was a disc jockey, and he had a segment on his show with his buddy Little Tommy called Animal Stories.
Oh, boy.
And kids, we have an animal story today. I read about this on the tubes of the net, that there is this little kid.
Don, you do know that internet doesn't have tubes.
So there was this kid, and she was at the zoo with her parents. And, of course, she just, ever since they had that movie about the lions and the Lion King, she just wanted to go to the lions and see what the lions are all about. And at this zoo, as it would be, they had an area where you could go, and they had this big window. And you could actually be at ground level looking into the lion's den, or where the lions were. And it wasn't good enough for little Mindy to stand outside and just wave at the animals. She wanted to actually go and down to the thing where she could actually look at them eye to eye.
With just a glass barrier in between?
Yeah.
Good.
So she goes down to the thing with her parents and walks up to the window to see the lion. And here is this big male lion with the big, with the hair and everything sitting there. And she goes to the window and starts pounding on the window and waving to the lion. And the lion looks over at little Mindy and actually walks over to little Mindy, who now has her face pressed against the glass with her hands up there. And the lion actually comes over and starts licking the glass. And everybody at the zoo said, it's a miracle. That lion actually came over to give little Mindy a kiss. And it was a moment in time when the animal world and the human world came together. And the reality of it is what the lion was trying to do was check the temperature of his next meal.
Yeah, it was meat tenderizing.
what's remarkable about that is how we want everything to be like in the movie Bambi. We want to believe that stuff even as adults, and we stand there and think that it's so cute for our little child. I say this, if they really believe that those lions are that friendly, let's take away the glass. And let little Mindy go up and just wave to the lion and see what happens to little Mindy.
Yeah, or go wading in the in the pond, in the alligator-infested pond,
or dropping your kid into the gorilla thing,
Yeah.
There you go. We're getting off of track here. I'm just looking for some good news because it's back to the Republican convention. If that isn't bad enough that they've ripped the governor apart, and that the party's falling apart.
I want to go back to Pence because, I don't think we can say often enough how backward, stupid. I mean, this guy junketed all over the world trying to get to be the president of the United States. He really, somebody at some point said, well, you're kind of presidential material. And, go to the gay thing he did here.
Well, you can't buy a pizza anymore if you're gay in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he tried to make that a law and was hoping to pass a federal law. He wasn't the only one that was that stupid, but, he certainly was the leader of the pack in that one. And if you look at the contrast between him and Trump, Trump is this outrageous, verbose moron, and then there's Pence that's like watching paint dry. And it's really not good paint. It's kind of watery, and it runs down the walls and stuff. And Pence will say anything and do anything to make Pence a bigger person or commodity.
My family thinks I'm a little bit eccentric, a little bit out there. And we'll be driving down the street, and some guy walking around Richmond doesn't have his shirt on, And what I always say, and my grandchildren thinks it's so funny, but I think the older adults not so funny. I always sort of yell out, eye pollution, and I cover my eyes. And I'm thinking, if I passed a law that said nobody could walk around, no male can walk around the street without their shirt on, because it's
baseball hats too.
Yeah,
baseball hats. You go out to a nice restaurant.
Because I have rights too, and I have rights not to be exposed to that.
Well,
right?
What's the place the Golden Corral?
Oh boy!
Go there some night and see the number of women who have shown up with pajama bottoms on. And normally the pajama bottoms are size 93s.
That's a sartorial statement.
Well, they actually have a place at Walmart where they have a special on those things.
Every year at Christmas time, they bring in like 50 different,
pajama bottoms.
Usually cartoon or superhero character pajama bottoms.
When I first moved here, I honest to God, I went there one night with a friend because I really liked their chicken wings. And I sat there and I said to him, that young woman is wearing pajama bottoms. And the guys always went, so? Until I realized that 80 to 90% all had pajama bottoms on.
Yeah, no, you don't see it in summer as much, but yeah, come in cooler weather.
And normally they're the type of people that, are like locusts. They show up at the various places to get the food, and then they walk away, and then there's a sold-out sign that comes out for a while until the cooks are in the back just working like crazy to get more food.
Yeah, and they're
or the kid that goes up to the chocolate fountain and opens his mouth and gets himself underneath so he can just have it right down his throat, which makes me think of all the recycling chocolate that's going through there, and I just want to puke. Anyway, we're getting off the point.
We always get off the point. Do we know the point?
Yeah, I want to get to Trump's wife's speech.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's the whole thing that's happening today, kids, is everybody is talking about the fact that the Republican nominee for president's wife, I had to put an S in there, gave a speech last night. And the thing you have to know about this woman is that this is a very, very beautiful woman. And I think she's cultured. She knows how to speak, I don't know how many languages. She carries herself really well.
Yeah, I think she's from Serbia originally, or her ancestors were.
And this is a woman who is not, she's no dummy.
No.
This is an intelligent woman who really didn't want to give this speech. And for her husband, so that he can get elected as president, she decides to give this speech and then proceeds to plagiarize another speech. Now, it would have been one thing to plagiarize Thomas Paine or Nikita Khrushchev.
Nikita.
Yeah, you ought to be old. You ought to be over 50 to know who he was. But what she does is she lifts the speech, actually she didn't, the speechwriter did, from, of all people, the most hated woman in the United States, according to Donald Trump, Michelle Obama.
Well, I once again, I just got to throw in a little sanity here. Even by Donald's lexicon, I thought Hillary had the most hated woman position.
Oh, it's a toss-up. Well, you're talking American woman in Hillary, and the other one's from Kenya.
By no stretch of the imagination can Michelle Obama ever have been associated with anybody from Kenya.
Once you marry somebody from Kenya,
then you're automatically your citizenship.
You're a
And
Kenyan.
we all know that Obama's not really an American citizen.
No, he's from Kenya.
Yeah.
And who told us that? Donald Trump.
And Donald Trump also criticized Michelle Obama
But
for not being the least presidential first lady ever. And his wife is going to make a good first lady.
Now, here's the thing that I want you all to consider out there. Okay, she gives this speech, and what happened is the internet picked it up.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't any commentator that, are supposedly the greatest people and know everything about politics that are on TV that don't know dick, but they're commentators. That's all they are. They're not like history majors. They just, even Chris Matthews on MSNBC was a speechwriter, and he didn't pick it up. Somebody out there in the real world Googled whatever it was, and there it is. And all of a sudden it becomes an issue. So now everyone is wondering what's going to happen.
Well,
how is this going to be explained? Who's going to get the axe? So Paul Manafort obviously does not want to be that person. So this morning he says, "Hey, that was her speech, and she's the one responsible. It wasn't me. I didn't. I only run the campaign. I didn't have anything to do with that." And then, as I told you, we would get back to Chris Christie.
Oh boy,
comes on the air as the potential nominee for the Supreme Court by Donald Trump, and Donald Trump did say that. And as his potential Supreme Court nominee says, well, she didn't, it wasn't like pages of plagiarism. It might have been some words or a paragraph or two, and that's not plagiarism. That's like saying, you know what? Yes, Your Honor, he killed a guy.
It wouldn't have been plagiarism if she stood up and said, even though I am Melania Trump, I'm about to deliver a speech that Michelle Obama had in.
Of all people.
Of all people. No, they don't. They obviously don't get what plagiarism is. It's
so you look at the first day.
Intellectual theft and dishonesty.
Here's the first day of the Republican National Convention. And if you people can't see what's going on here, Donald Trump isn't the businessman that everybody thinks Donald Trump is. Donald Trump, when he started in business, was given $1 million from his father and said, "Hey, get into real estate." Now,
that was what his dad was in too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here is a guy that, like Mitt Romney said during the presidential campaign, if you kids can't find a job, listen, just go to your parents and ask them for $100,000 and start your own business.
Well, Duh.
As if everybody has $100,000 to give their kids to start a new business. But when you get this kind of thinking of these guys who stumble into business because they've got a lot of money and the first thing they hire is a lot of good attorneys, and you then start to hear some of the people who have been in business with Donald Trump, and you understand that there's a pattern to this guy.
Yeah, last time we talked about one of them, Andrew Tesoro, and if you Google his name, Tesoro, you can see how Donald really messed him over.
He almost put the guy out of business. And he is one of many others that's the way. It's how you look at his economic plan for the United States. China owes us $23 quadrillion. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, hey, I'll give you 10 cents on the dollar.
Take it or leave it, or I'll tie you up in
it'll
court.
It'll be 5 cents tomorrow.
Or I'll tie you up in court, and we'll have a big war for the next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I got good lawyers. I got good lawyers. Not like the United States with their meaningless, United States lawyers. I got good lawyers. They know how to do this stuff. They know how to negotiate. And then he's just going to summarily put up a 35% tariff on anything coming into the United States. Mm-hmm. Well, kids, if you think that there is a global economy, day 2 after those things happen, there isn't any global anything anymore.
No, it'll collapse.
And this is the type of thing that they had the guy on, I hate to say it, from Duck Dynasty this morning.
Boy.
And he was talking about Donald Trump and what a great man he is and what a great president he's going to make. And how he was a real person, not like politicians that aren't real people. And he was able to shake his hand and talk to him. And, Donald, offered me a chance to speak. And I just think he's a wonderful guy. And he says, well, the guy said, well, so what do you think? Why do you think he's qualified to be the president? And the Duck Dynasty guy said, well, he's a great businessman. He's been a great businessman. Never mind all the bankruptcies that he's been through.
And 3,500 lawsuits against him.
Yeah, forget all those things. But here was the part that was the kicker. And he's a TV personality, and we got a TV show. And I thought, and there you are, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
He is speaking right to the Republicans.
Now, I'm going to say something that, you know me, I always fact check. But I'm going to say something I haven't done fact checking on. But I read something that was saying that a publisher actually had the idea for The Art of the Deal, and they lined up a ghostwriter, but they needed a celebrity to really sell this book. And so they approached Donald Trump. And so the ghostwriter wrote the book. And the ghostwriter is now coming out and saying, oh, he's a complete sociopath. Now, my question is, we're about to elect this man president of the United States. That would be like somebody saying to you, you're really going to let your daughter marry Ted Bundy?
Well, it's a guy that if you work for Fort Howard or for Scott Paper that make toilet paper, I'm sure if you went to Donald Trump and said, Don, we'll give you $12 million, but we want to have Trump toilet paper so you can wipe your ass with Donald. Donald, sure, I'll license the name to you. A lot of the buildings that he says he owns, he doesn't. He leases out his name.
Right.
And, this is the kind of guy that we're going to elect possibly as president of the United States.
He will brand the whole country.
Folks, I know the choice is bleak out there.
Yeah, because we haven't even we're not going to talk about Hillary this week.
No, there's a whole show that you could do about Hillary and that group of thugs. All elections are local. And in Richmond, you have one of the parties that we have discussed, and we won't mention them by name, So the Democrats are now in the process of, rather than fielding candidates, the new chair of the party here in Richmond has decided that it's far more important than getting people elected to change the bylaws to give the power to the chairman of the party and take it away from the people so that he can make the decisions and spend the money and do the stuff that he needs to do. Now, this can happen only behind closed doors with a X number of people showing up to do this, and the thing that he counts on is this: we're lazy.
And we like to believe that the guy shaking our hand and smiling at us is a good guy.
Yeah.
He's not.
Yeah, and, you know, it's always amazing to me that when we find out that these guys are what they are. I'll never forget when that nitwit from Utah or someplace was picked up in an airport bathroom for making an overture there's something about you put your feet under the next stall or whatever. I can't remember who this guy was, but his defense of making a gay whatever was that he had a wide stance when he went to the bathroom. And of course, he's no longer in politics. Or you get these guys that end up, having sex with the pages, the male pages, on the Senate floor, and all of a sudden they're gone for a while. These are people that we elected. These are the kind of people that we elected. More importantly, they're the kind of people that are chosen for us.
Yeah, and that's increasingly alarming for me, because we really do have a system in which the candidates we get are maybe the ones that we deserve, but they are selected for us. They're paid for by people who have them because they're serving their agendas.
So here we have it. We have this year's election, we have a burglar, a pedophile, a rapist, and a murderer. Take your pick.
Are they all the same person?
No. 4 different people. You can find those shit in the diner in any given town at any given hour. And the point of the whole thing is we need to start taking control of our government. Government shouldn't be controlling us. They should be serving us. We need to take that power back, because the next thing they're going to do for you, and they try to make it harder every year, is to take your vote away. When they have done that, welcome to serfdom.
Well, and that's true. And bringing it home locally, Dakota Collins needs the elected precinct committee persons. And what does he need them for? He needs them to pass his new bylaws that basically takes all power away from them and puts it forever in his hands, or whoever might be his successor, in time. And so we're at one of those moments. We're at one of those moments in American history in which we just have to say no.
And where did he learn it? He learned it from the previous mayor.
Yeah.
Who was she ran the party, the city, wrote the checks, did everything. And she was able to get away with it for 12 years. And the city of Richmond in those 12 years has prospered. No, it really hasn't. It's just continued to go downhill.
And I'm a lifelong Democrat, and I can tell you that I have so much dislike, so much animosity towards her. I mean, what she did to this city and allowed to have happen to it.
Well, when your number one priority is to tear it down, it hasn't been a very successful 12 years. And that your legacy...
and that hasn't changed.
Your legacy is going to be a field.
Yeah, but in Richmond that hasn't changed.
No. What they're trying to do now is this Dakota guy is trying to make that legal so that you can't question it. It's in the bylaws.
It's in the bylaws.
You can't say that I'm not the kahuna because it says right here,
Yeah,
I am the kahuna.
You serve on this committee and you're starting to question me, you're fired.
He has the right to hire, fire, and spend.
Hire, fire, and spend, yes.
And that's what this guy does now.
He's
And this
fine.
is your local politics, by the way, and this is only the Democrats. God knows what the Republicans are doing.
Well, we're really out of time, but I just want to throw in one more thing. At 2 different Democratic Party meetings, I have made the suggestion that he post the names of all the elected officials in the party, all the committee persons who actually ran on a ballot and all the other people, and provide for those people. Of course, he gets to ask them in advance what kind of contact information they feel comfortable having put out there. But then post that contact information, post their phone numbers, post their addresses, post their email or whatever, Facebook account, whatever it might be. Again, they get to say, I'm comfortable with this or not. And so finally, under my pressure, my suggestions, he has put up the name of all the committee people. And instead of being the only person on the website with an email address, he's put up this bogus email address. Okay, info@democrat.org. But guess what? That's still Dakota. So all suggestions, complaints, everything, he still doesn't get the idea. He thinks it has to go from him to him.
Power is money. That's what it is, kids. Power is money. It's why the 1% of the 1%, well, the 1% has 80% of the money in this country. The top 5% have 85% of all the money in this country. And you and I and the rest of the people that you know and that are in this town or in this world are vying for 15% of the money that's left.
You know when you cut a pie and you serve all the pie, sometimes a little piece of the crust falls into the bottom.
That's what you're vying for.
Yeah, that's what you're trying to get.
Only in America can this happen. And actually, it's happening all over the world. Be nice to one another. Play nice with one another. Have a good week.
Bye.